Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Welcome to my show. The pandemic has taught us all a lot of lessons, but one of the most important lessons is not to live beyond your means. To talk about that today from New York, Dr. Teresa R. Martin, Esquire. She is with generationalwealthzone.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I'm so excited.
Well, I love your energy and your charisma. I'm getting radiation all the way from New York through the TV set here. Let's talk about the jam that so many Americans find themselves in. Even during good times, Americans are often living beyond their means, and that's what you talk about, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I mention to my clients and for anyone who will listen, we really have to focus on CIA. Credit, income, assets. That's all the things that we need to do. Income deals with jobs. Sometimes jobs go away, but we need to create our own entrepreneurship journey. But CIA, everyone needs to be a part of the CIA club.
I love that. I love that. And I know during good times you are out speaking across the country. How have you been able to pivot during this pandemic?
It was easier for me because I was always looking for different verticals in different situations. So as an attorney, obviously my law clients are not going to come into the office and meet with me. So I had to turn my law practice into an online consulting practice. So that's what I did. And then what I used is to teach other professionals on how to pivot from offline to online, keeping the same thing the same thing.
Yes, I love it, and you certainly have a message is very timely right now. I went on your website. I found a great video that you produced. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
We all have an expiration date, and we don't know how much time we have left on this earth, but we need to use that time to make a difference. We want to make a difference in your life. You embody your creativity. You embody your knowledge base. You embody your goals. And once you get with someone who now puts those things together, now you can build a solid plan. I want to help you build a strategic plan to help you build generational wealth, break the chains of generational poverty so that you have the time to leave to your loved ones, that they have memories that they can now hold on to. And that legacy has been created. So what I want you to do is build, grow, sustain, and enjoy your legacy one day at a time.
Wow, that's beautiful and so inspirational. Many times when somebody develops a business, it comes from a personal experience. Have you always been a part of the CIA?
I've always been a part of CIA, but in a bad way, Jeff. When I graduated law school, I was told, just like Robert Kiyosaki talks about, right? Rich dad, poor dad. I got a job, got good grades, went to a great law firm. And then 9/11 happened and it crashed everything. I found myself going from a 780 to a 437 credit score. I couldn't go to a bank to get money without a gun, right? That was my situation. So I actually had to build myself up, going through foreclosure to save my home that I built in the Poconos. I had to file bankruptcy, to save that home. So what happened to me, Jeff, was that I went down as a corporate attorney. But when I came back up, I came back up as a real estate foreclosure bankruptcy attorney because I wasn't going to allow people to go through situations beyond their control and not have a solution. So that's how I came into Generational Wealth Zone, because there are some people out there, like this pandemic, right? Like 9/11, like the economic crash, that are doing things that they were supposed to do, but because of circumstances, they find themselves on the other side. I wanted to be that champion and that advocate, and that's how Generational Wealth Zone was born.
Wow, you are so empowering, and I think the fact that you can relate to the people that you're coaching because you've been there, that really makes you powerful. It seems like you can go in any different direction with this. You have divorce attorneys who've never been married, and you think to yourself, what do you know, right? You haven't been there, but you've really walked more than a mile in their shoes, haven't you?
Good, bad, or indifferent. And sometimes when my clients come in and we're talking about foreclosure, and they'll say, Dr. Martin, or Teresa, depending on how familiar they are with me, you don't really understand. And I pull out my foreclosure filing. When we're talking about bankruptcy, I pull out my bankruptcy filing. Okay, so I do know, and I do know that we can build ourselves back up. I went down from almost losing one home to being in control of 54 properties and 108 units, never having to use my credit score. So I just walk people through the process. Doesn't matter where you are today. It matters where you are going, and let me help you fill the gap. That's the message that I want everyone to know.
Well, let's talk about how do you control that urge to keep up with the Joneses, and your neighbor gets a boat, so you get a boat even though you can't afford it. How do you control that urge?
It's very difficult because we're human in nature, right? And, we look at what this person has, but you don't know what that person has done to be able to get the things that they have. You don't know their story. So I always just tell people, just stay in your lane. What things do you want so that we can work towards that, so that you can be within your means, and whatever is assigned to you will be assigned to you. You can't take what someone else has because that may not have been your assignment. So it's really hard to deal with the mindset. But once you work with them about what they really want and how they can actually attain it, it's easier for people to walk through a step-by-step process, from credit to building income, to growing assets. It's a formula, it's a system. And when you break the system, it's all phantom, because you have money, you have cars, you have houses, but will I see you at the closing table and then 5 years at the foreclosure court? I'm not sure. Let's do it the right way, in the right order, so that we can attain the things that God has have us to have according to his plan and his purpose. That's my message, and that's what I would tell people. Fight the urge to be like the Joneses. Last time I checked, the Joneses is in foreclosure too.
Right, and it's shocking to me the number of millionaires that are kind of living paycheck to paycheck. The pandemic exposed a lot of people who, they may own a large restaurant chain, and they're, on paper they're worth a lot of money, but you have to close that restaurant chain for 8 weeks, and you find out, who's really prepared for a rainy day, don't you?
Yes, and I want to touch upon that just briefly. One of the things when you talk about the millionaire status, right? A lot of times in business, Jeff, we're talking about $1 million businesses. They may be earning in revenue $1 million, but what's the profit margins on that? Are they actually putting $1 million in the bank account? So when we're talking about businesses, I am very clear when I'm talking about business owners. One, you have to have 5 steps to generational wealth. One, you want to deal with that business ownership. A true business is having a business and not trading time for money. Then do you have appreciating assets like, home equity that we can pull from, because that equity can be used to fund investments and your business in lean times when you can't get a line of credit. And then do we have proper insurances? A lot of businesses have gone down because they weren't properly insured. Did you not take into account things like a pandemic or things that will shut down the income from coming into your business? Proper insurance offers security when you are no longer able to do the work that's needed to produce that revenue. And then the proper retirement planning, and then intellectual property. These are some of the things that we need to talk about when we're talking about true business and true wealth building, because money does not always equate to wealth.
Wow, I could listen to you all day. You are so wise, and thank you so much for sharing your energy and your wisdom with us today. We're out of time for this segment, but we're going to put your website up on the screen. It's generationalwealthzone.com. Dr. Martin, you have been amazing, and thank you for blessing us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.